Hey friend, I'd like you to think about how you can change the story of somebody in your world. I had a friend that was in hospital for something quite serious, and when she was discharged, she went home in a taxi. And as she got out of the taxi and attempted to cross the road, she fell. She was weak from her hospitalization. She couldn't get up on her own. So she used her cell phone to call her husband, who was also ill, living in the apartment across the street that she was trying to get to. And he came down to see if he could help her. And the truth was, he wasn't going to be able to help her get off the ground because he was too weak himself. So as he was coming out to her, he met two young men and he asked if they would help. And they did. One was a courier driver and one was part of a family new to the country that also lived in the apartment. And so the two men came over and they helped her up. They helped her cross the street. And then one went into the building, into the elevator, and went up to the elevator and only left her once he and his family knew that she was going to be okay getting to her apartment door. As I was checking in with her about how she was doing and I heard she fell, I was just quite concerned that what she was going to feel was very defeated, that the very first thing that had happened even before she got into the building was that she had fallen and couldn't get up, and that she was feeling that perhaps she'd been discharged from hospital too early or that she wasn't strong enough to go home, that there was going to be some sense of fear or discouragement. But to my surprise, as she was telling me the story about this fall, was she spent very little time on the fall and a whole lot of time on how these two men had helped her get up from the ground and had taken such good care of her, and that she was safe in her apartment because these men, total strangers, had troubled themselves to give help. And I was just so moved at how this potentially very difficult story, where right after a serious hospitalization, when she was so vulnerable, she had fallen, that right after this, she hadn't told the story of a horrible fall. She told the story of a beautiful rescue. They had changed her story. When something bad happens, whether it's a fall on the sidewalk or really any sort of accident, loss, failure, or moment of deep hurt, it can feel like the world stops. The pain is absolutely real, and the story we begin to tell ourselves is one of brokenness and isolation. We can tell ourselves, life sucks, it's really hard, I'm alone. It can get really hard really fast. But then someone like these guys came along. They saw her, they listened, they helped, they showed up in ways that she didn't expect. And in that moment, everything shifted for her. It wasn't just their actions that mattered, though they really did matter. They really did help her get home safely. It was how their kindness rewrote the story and how to remember it in a completely different way. What once felt like an experience of being alone in the dark became a story of resilience, of connection, and of hope. That kindness made such difference. Those guys that helped her, they didn't erase the fall and whatever bump she might have had from it, but it did give that experience meaning. And it reminded me of how even in life's hardest moments, we don't have to walk alone. I want you to remember the power you have to shape someone's story by simply showing up. It's a gift that lasts far beyond the moment. It will change how they recall and remember that incident or experience. It can change the way they see themselves. It can change the way they see the world. And when people see the world differently, they relate to it differently, and that will change somebody else in the world. Your kindness matters. It rewrites story.